Okay.
Okay, hi. Welcome back to our rug braiding lesson, segment 2. And in this segment, we're going to talk about actually assembling the rug. It's a sort of a misconception. People think it's sewing, but it's not sewing. It's actually a method that's called lacing. So I'll tell you about that. Before I do, I'm going to talk about some of the equipment that's used for this part of the process. I use this heavy sort of twine. It's you can find it in stores. Some places call it carpet thread. It's much heavier than a traditional thread that you would use to sew a button on. It's called carpet. Some places call it carpet thread, and some others I've heard of it called lacing twine or lacing thread. I even look in bargain stores for just a heavy duty type twine. I mean, it can't be twine like a ropey twine, but something really strong that's much thicker than button thread. So that's the kind of thing that I use. And of course you need scissors because you have to continually add more pieces and cut them pieces off. Some people use this would be called a leather thimble. It actually goes on the edge of your hand, on a finger, so that when you're pulling, you want to pull the lacing fairly tight to hold the rug together so it's not all loose. So I actually pull on the edge of my hand, and this is a good protection for that. So that can be, a leather thimble could be used also. And then the lacing tool that we use is this. It's not a needle. It's a lacer, a rug braiding lacer, and it's flat, and it has this curved pointy end, but not so pointy that it's sharp like a needle to pierce the fabric, because we're not piercing the fabric. We are actually going to run the lace with this needle in between the braids, and I'll demonstrate that to you now. So you'll see here I have it going through, and we're gonna go through almost every single braid. You'll see how that happens. So I'm going through the inner piece, pulling it tight, and then on the piece that I'm adding, I'm going to go in between those braids, and you just pull it tight, and you see as you pull it, the lacing gets hidden in between the braids. I'll do some more to show you. And it's a lengthy process. It's nice when the rug is small in the beginning, like this one is now. See how I pulled it tightly and it just hides itself in between the braids. As I was starting to say, it's nice when the rug is small in the beginning like this, because you can do it on a table. As your rug gets larger, you really pretty much have to do it on the floor, and some people can only do that for so long because their back starts hurting. It's a good when I learned how to braid a rug, I learned from my mother, and she would braid, and my sister and I would take turns sitting on the floor doing the lacing, and it was kind of a nice thing to do together that way. So you just keep going along like that all around. It's a very time-consuming process, as you can see, but well worth it to come up with a high-quality handmade rug. And I'm sure seeing this process, you can realize now why it would be so expensive to purchase a handmade rug compared to machine-made from stores, because this is a lengthy process, but well worth it to use old clothing and blankets and recycle and come up with your own color patterns your own shapes. And you see, that's how the lacing keeps going around and around. Now, one thing that I should probably explain to you at this point is on some shapes, on the circle it's fairly easy, you just keep going around, but occasionally on a circle or a rectangle more so, you get to a point where the outer layer braid lines up or is ahead of the inner layer braid, and in that case what you would want to do is skip lacing through that particular braid, because if it's all braided too tightly it will bunch up, and you want your rug to lie flat. So occasionally when that happens, when that outside braid next piece is Amy, this is kind of a good example right here. It's sort of behind here. I'm going to skip that one. I'm not going to lace through that one, because that could make the rug too tight and start to make it bunchy. And at the same time, oh, this is a really good demo here. At the same time, you see I have a knot where I've added a piece of thread. You're just going to pull that in between the braids or push it in, okay, using your lacing needle, and that gets popped out. You can just hide it in between there, all right? And that's how that will happen, and that lacing will get hidden when I do a few more stitches. Do a few more and hide all that. Okay, there. Okay, that came out very nicely. And you see we're back to the next one I lace. I'm going to go through there, and the one on the outer layer is ahead of that one. Okay, again, if it were behind or even, I would want to be skipping that so the rug wouldn't become bunchy. Alright, so we're at a good point there to demonstrate that. Alright, so I think at this point we'll stop with our lesson for today, and again, as I talked about with beginning the rug, I think it's easier to follow the written step-by-step instructions in some books. It is a little complicated, but if you just follow the written directions step by step, the process is very simple. And I'll say the same about ending a rug. It's the same. When you get to where you want to end the rug, you have to taper the braid down to a much smaller piece, and then sort of intertwine it in between the braid segments. And again, I feel like the best way to do that is to follow the written instructions in some of the literature. And I will be listing these books in my written lesson to you, but these are some of the books that I use. This one is quite old. It's called Beautiful Braiding. But there are some newer books. The Braided Rug Book by Norma and Elizabeth Sturgis, and Rug Braiding with Verna by Verna Cox. And I will list these with publisher information in the written lesson, so you can pick up a copy for yourself if you like. Thank you.